days, this has been the scene in Israeli-controlled central Hebron, not because no one lives here, but because the Israeli military has decreed that since the latest uprising began, 40,000 Palestinians should be effectively locked in their homes almost 24 hours a day. Youths try to protest the clampdown, but this is a curfew enforced by the barrel of a gun. From outside the curfew area, other Palestinians clash regularly with Israeli troops. And so these clashes have become a daily ritual, but here in Hebron, Palestinian anger is fueled by a particular sense of injustice. The reason for the curfew is to protect Hebron's tiny community of 400 Jewish settlers, many of them armed, who believe it is their biblical birthright to live in the city of the tomb of the patriarch, a site holy to both Muslims and Jews. Some Palestinians have to risk breaking the curfew. This family showed us their baby scalded by hot water. They asked the Israelis 6 times, they said, before they were allowed through to hospital. This woman wasn't so lucky. Her son was arrested, she claims, for going out to buy bread. According to the soldiers, he attacked them with stones. While we were in Hebron, the Israelis relented, announcing from a jeep the lifting of curfew for the start of Ramadan, the Muslim holy month. Soon, Palestinians emerged onto the streets to open their businesses, to stock up on food and supplies, and to greet friends and family. But this is a city of hatred in a land effectively at war, and it wasn't long before Jewish settlers were venting their anger that the curfew had been lifted. A Palestinian, they said, had shot at the settlement. The army tried their best to keep the sides apart, but Jewish settler women began overturning vegetable stalls in the Palestinian market, and even their children became involved. This is what life is like in the divided city of Hebron. It is not what the settlers would want you to see, and it is the Palestinians who suffer, threatened by the soldiers and forced to close up their businesses once again. Palestinian anger and resentment is growing here. We cannot go on living like this, he told me. And for their part, the Israeli settlers are determined to stay.
We will stay, yes. No one take us out from here.
Well, it's the end of another day here in Hebron, and 24 hours in the most divided city in the Middle East has shown little hope for the future here. This evening, 40,000 Palestinians are back under curfew. Mark Austin, ITN, Hebron, on the West Bank.
The House of Lords is expected to vote later this evening on controversial plans to partially privatise Britain's air traffic control. They've been rejected by the Lords once before. The second defeat could threaten the government's transport bill, with its provisions for a new strategic rail authority and curbs on road congestion.
805 Charlie, direct document.
Speculation's growing tonight that the new England manager-in-waiting may take full control of the team sooner rather than later. Sven-Göran Eriksson's position at the Italian club Lazio is now less certain. The Football Association also wants his help for England's friendly against Spain in February. But that hasn't pleased England's stand-in coach, Peter Taylor. Graham Miller has the details.
It's been a mixed season in Italy for Sven-Göran Eriksson's Lazio. They lost to Anderlecht in the Champions League last week, and this 2-0 defeat to Parma yesterday in the Italian League saw sections of the Lazio faithful turn against him. Their banners saying, "Eriksson, go away," to the man who will become England's new coach at the end of the Italian season next summer. Despite a vote of confidence tonight from Lazio owner Sergio Cragnotti, reports in Italy are suggesting Eriksson's future could depend on the outcome of their Champions League game with Leeds next week. He's not been helped by local rivals Roma riding high at the top of Serie A. Meanwhile, Peter Taylor has hinted he may refuse to take charge of England's next friendly against Spain in February if Eriksson is given a say in team selection. The Football Association is expected to announce who will be doing what for that game at Villa Park later this week.
So if the Lazio fans get their way, they'll be doing the Football Association a big favour. It'll mean Sven-Göran Eriksson leaving Italy earlier than expected to take up his job here at the FA's new headquarters in Soho Square. Graham Miller, ITN Sport, Central London.
We end the programme tonight with official confirmation of what we've been saying for several days now. This is the wettest autumn since records began nearly 300 years ago. Figures for England and Wales show that there's been 80% more rainfall than usual, and the forecasters say there's more to come. Here's ITN's Paul Davis.
On the day they officially confirmed this is the wettest autumn on record, it was raining again. In Cardiff, where an umbrella's become a compulsory companion for any outdoor expedition, shoppers were taking no satisfaction in this piece of meteorological history-making.
It makes you want to stay indoors, doesn't it? It doesn't make you want to come out. Well, I have a few umbrellas blown inside out and get my hair wet and have to have another hairdo.
The first autumn of the 21st century will be remembered for widespread flooding and for the misery created by extreme weather conditions, in particular for the torrential rain that soaked most parts of the country. An average 18 inches of rain fell on Britain. Some areas had much, much more. Bill Dunn, who spent a career at the London Weather Centre watching the daily rainfall figures, says the autumn began badly and got steadily worse.
We'd had a wet September. We'd had a very wet October, especially in southeast England. By the middle of November, it became obvious we stood a good chance of having the wettest autumn on record, not just in southeast England, but over the country as a whole.
The statistics show the autumnal downpour broke all records. The average autumn rainfall for England and Wales is 252 millimetres. The previous wettest autumn was way back in 1852. 456 millimetres fell then. That record's been smashed this year with 469 millimetres, well over 18 inches falling. And the rain has hit across the country. For example, in October, areas of Scotland and Northern Ireland had 50% more rain than normal. Large parts of Wales and central England got double the normal rain, whilst areas of southeast England got 3 times more rain than normal. These are 2 of the official collectors of rainfall on the roof of the London Weather Centre. These and instruments like them across the country tell us this is the wettest autumn on record. What we don't know yet, of course, is what the final record figure will be, because officially there are 3 days of autumn left, the collectors are still gathering water, and yes, it is still raining. The weathermen say we can expect unusually warm weather now, but it's much too soon to put away that umbrella. Paul Davis, ITN.
It's time for a quick look at the headlines. Francis Environment Minister has deplored the chauvinist attitudes of Britain's Deputy Prime Minister John Prescott, and George W. Bush says he's the winner of the American presidential election, but Al Gore is not giving up the fight. And that's the way the news looks so far this evening. The ITV Nightly News is next from ITN at 11. We leave you now with the main images of the day. Good night.
As to about being whether I'm accused of being a macho man, what?
Now that the votes are counted, it is time for the votes to count.
Good evening. Well, this is already the wettest autumn since records began more than 200 years ago, but apparently it's not quite wet enough. A couple of days yet before autumn turns to winter, and there's more rain to come. We've seen bands of rain spreading north across Britain today. Further rain to come through the next 24 hours, but I think through tomorrow, the southeast will become mostly dry, and really quite mild too, especially if the sun manages to break through. Now, overnight tonight, we've got a tangle of weather fronts around. Most of Britain will end up cloudy with outbreaks of rain and drizzle. Lots of low cloud and mist around as well, so some fog patches. All in all, pretty unpleasant night to be out on the roads. Very murky and wet in many places. For tomorrow, we'll start off with a lot of cloud too, and more outbreaks of rain. Parts of Scotland, Northern Ireland, perhaps not too much rain to begin with, but the next band of rain will be coming your way through the day, moving across northern and western parts of Britain, as you see. At the same time, the south and east becoming mostly dry, and after a very murky start, might just see one or two bright spells breaking through. And if the sun does appear, it'll certainly send temperatures soaring tomorrow, warmer than it's been for quite a while, up to 15, and that's 59. But all the time, I think, quite windy in the west, something close to a gale up through the Irish Sea. Let's look a little further ahead now to Wednesday. Central and eastern parts will start the day dry, perhaps even a little bit of sunshine in the east, but you can see the weather front already producing rain in the west, and that's going to move east across all parts of Britain through the day on Wednesday, with sunny spells and blustery showers to follow it. And then for Thursday, after a dry, quite chilly start with some sunny spells, yet another weather system is due to move in from the south and west with more rain for southern and western parts of Britain. The north and east probably staying mostly dry. It's all still very unsettled.
Power, whatever the weather.
GMTV continues to celebrate 40 years of Coronation Street. We take a look back at the bad boys of the street, the men we love to hate. Live in the studio, original bad boys.